Have you ever looked up at the stars and felt a profound sense of wonder? Did you ever ask yourself a question that echoes through all of human history? Are we alone in this vast, unending universe, or is it possible, just possible, that our story is far more complex, more ancient, and more extraordinary than we have ever been taught in our history books? Mainstream science tells us we are the product of a long, slow process of evolution, a happy accident of biology on a lonely planet. But what if there is another explanation? What if our very existence was not an accident at all, but a deliberate act of creation? Ancient texts from all around the world seem to hint at this very possibility. They speak of powerful beings who descended from the heavens, often referred to as gods, angels, or celestial visitors. Could these be more than just myths? Is it possible these are not stories of fantasy, but rather eyewitness accounts of real events, recorded by our ancestors to the best of their ability? The Sumerians, one of the earliest known civilizations, left behind thousands of clay tablets. These tablets describe a group of beings they called the Anunaki, which translates to those who from heaven to earth came. The question we must ask is, were these gods, or were they something else entirely? The descriptions of the Anunnaki are astonishingly detailed. They were not depicted as ethereal spirits or magical deities in the way we might imagine. Instead, the Sumerian cuneiform texts portray them as physical beings, flesh and blood individuals who ate, drank, and had complex social structures. They were described as giants who possessed incredible technology and knowledge far beyond that of early humans. Could it be that what our ancestors called gods were in fact extraterrestrial visitors? Is it not plausible that any advanced being arriving on Earth thousands of years ago would have been perceived as a divine entity by a primitive population? This idea challenges everything we think we know about our past. It suggests that our origins are not just terrestrial, but cosmic. It forces us to reconsider the meaning behind ancient monuments, sacred texts, and the universal myths of sky gods found in nearly every culture on Earth. Are these merely the products of human imagination, or could they be the fragmented memories of a forgotten chapter in our history? A chapter where humanity was not alone, but was guided, taught, and perhaps even created by visitors from another world. The evidence, I believe, is carved into the very stones of our oldest civilizations. According to the interpretations of these ancient Sumerian texts, the Anunnaki came from a world far beyond our own. This rogue planet, known as Nibiru, was said to have a long elliptical orbit that brought it into our solar system only once every 3,600 years. The tablets describe a world in crisis. Nibiru's atmosphere was failing, its protective shield was dissipating, and the planet was slowly dying. The Anunnaki, being a highly advanced civilization, devised a desperate plan to save their home. They needed a very specific element, one that could be used to repair their planet's atmosphere. That precious element was gold. Their search brought them across the vastness of space to our solar system. After surveying the other planets, their ships finally arrived on a promising blue and white world, our own Earth. The texts tell us they first landed in the area that would later become Mesopotamia, establishing their first base, which they called Eridu, meaning home in the faraway. They were not conquerors seeking to enslave a population. There was no advanced civilization here to conquer. They were explorers, scientists, and engineers on a critical mission. They were here to mine for gold, the one resource that held the key to their survival and the preservation of their home world, Nibiru. Why gold? Mainstream archaeologists will tell you that ancient peoples simply found it beautiful and used it for jewelry and ornamentation, but is that the whole story? The Anunnaki, according to the text, needed gold for a far more practical technological purpose. The theory is that they intended to pulverize the gold into a fine monatomic powder and suspend it in their upper atmosphere. This would create a reflective shield deflecting harmful solar radiation and trapping heat, essentially creating an artificial greenhouse effect to save their world. This wasn't about wealth or beauty, it was a matter of planetary engineering and survival on a cosmic scale. The initial mining operations were established, and the Anunnaki themselves, began the arduous task of extracting gold from the mines of southern Africa and other parts of the world. The texts, such as the Atrahasis epic, describe the immense physical labor involved. The Anunnaki astronauts who were tasked with this work toiled for thousands of years. They dug deep into the earth, enduring harsh conditions far from their home. But as time went on, the burden of this labor became too great. The rank-and-file Anunnaki miners began to complain, and eventually staged a mutiny. They refused to work any longer, creating a crisis for the entire mission. Faced with a full-blown labor crisis, the Anunnaki leaders, including the chief scientist Enki and his half-brother, the commander Enlil, needed a solution. They could not abandon their mission, as the fate of Nibiru hung in the balance. The texts describe a momentous council meeting where Enki proposed a revolutionary idea. He suggested that they should not bear the labor themselves. Instead, he proposed creating a worker, a primitive laborer, to do the mining for them. He would not create this worker from scratch. The raw material he needed was already present on Earth, in the form of the early hominids that roamed the African plains. The plan was audacious and, for some, controversial. Enki proposed taking the essence of the Anunnaki, their genetic material, their DNA, and mixing it with the DNA of the most advanced primate on the planet, likely Homo erectus. The goal was to bind upon it the image of the gods. In other words, they would upgrade an existing species, creating a hybrid being that possessed the strength and resilience of Earth's native life, but also a portion of the intelligence and consciousness of the Anunnaki. This new being would be smart enough to understand commands and perform complex tasks, but subservient enough to not pose a threat. The Sumerians called this first successful human the Adamu. The creation process, as described in texts like the Atrahasis, is astonishingly similar to modern concepts of in vitro fertilization and genetic engineering. The texts speak of mixing the clay of the earth, the genetic material of the early hominid, with the blood and essence of a young Anunnaki god in a special vessel. They even describe using Anunnaki females as surrogate mothers to birth the first generation of these hybrid beings. Is it a coincidence that these ancient stories, written thousands of years ago, so closely mirror the language of modern genetic science? Or is it possible they were recording a real technological event in the only terms they could understand? The result was a new form of life on Earth humanity. The Adamu were created to be workers, a slave race designed for a single purpose, to toil in the mines and dig for gold. They were strong, they were intelligent, and they were able to take over the back-breaking labor that the Anunnaki had refused to perform. The mission was saved. The flow of gold to Nibiru could resume. But in creating humanity, the Anunnaki had forever altered the course of our planet's history. They had set in motion a story of servitude, enlightenment, and eventual rebellion that would define our relationship with our gods for millennia to come. With a new workforce at their disposal, the Anunnaki mission accelerated. The Adamu, the first humans, proved to be effective laborers. Under the direct guidance of their creators, they not only mined for gold but also began to build the world around them. The Anunnaki taught humanity the fundamentals of civilization. They passed down knowledge of agriculture, showing them how to cultivate crops and domesticate animals. They instructed them in architecture, guiding the construction of the first great cities of Mesopotamia, complete with towering ziggurats that were said to be stairways to the heavens, connecting Earth with the world of the gods. The knowledge transfer did not stop there. The Sumerian king lists speak of kingship being lowered from heaven, with Anunnaki-appointed rulers governing humanity for astonishingly long periods. During this time, humanity was given the secrets of mathematics, writing, and astronomy. Why would early humans, struggling for survival, suddenly develop a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos, tracking the movements of distant stars and planets? Was it mere curiosity, or were they taught this knowledge by beings who navigated those very stars? The Anunnaki, it seems, were not just masters, they were the first teachers, shaping human society in their own image. However, a problem soon emerged. Humanity was not a static creation. As generations passed, they grew in number and in awareness. The text suggests that some Anunnaki, perhaps Enki himself, were sympathetic to their creations and gave them more knowledge than was originally intended. Humans began to think for themselves, to question their masters, and to desire independence. This growing autonomy created a rift between the two primary Anunnaki leaders. Enlil, the stern commander, saw humanity as a chaotic and noisy problem that had gotten out of control. Enki, the creator, felt a paternal responsibility for his creation. The experiment, it seemed, was becoming too successful. This conflict culminated in a catastrophic event that is recorded in mythologies all around the globe. A great flood. The Sumerian texts claim the deluge was no natural disaster. Instead, they say the Anunnaki leadership, led by a frustrated Enlil, decided to let humanity be wiped out by a massive flood that they knew was coming as Nibiru made a close pass by Earth. It was a planetary reset button. The Anunnaki would simply let the flood cleanse the Earth of their noisy, rebellious creation. However, Enki could not stand by and watch his children be destroyed. Defying the council, he secretly warned one faithful human, Ziusudra in the Sumerian version, Utnapishtim in the Babylonian, and Noah in the biblical account. Enki's intervention saved a small pocket of humanity from total annihilation. He instructed his chosen human to build a great vessel, a submersible boat, and to preserve the seed of life from the coming waters. When the deluge finally subsided, and the Anunnaki looked down upon a world washed clean, they were surprised to find survivors. According to the text, Enlil was furious at first, but eventually relented. Humanity was given a second chance, a new beginning. But this time, things were different. The humans who emerged from the Ark were more aware, possessing the memory of their near destruction and the knowledge of their divine creators. They were no longer just servants. From this point on, the relationship between the Anunnaki and humanity changed. The gods granted humanity true civilization, allowing them to build new cities and govern themselves, albeit under the watchful eyes of their creators. The Anunnaki eventually prepared to leave Earth. Their primary mission was either complete, or perhaps their homeworld of Nibiru had stabilized. The texts describe them dividing the Earth among themselves before departing, promising one day to return. This departure is a pivotal moment, leaving humanity to chart its own course for the first time, armed with the knowledge and the genetic legacy of the stars. But did they ever truly leave? This is the ultimate question that lingers today. Are these ancient stories just myths, or are they a record of real events? Could the gods who promised to return be the same beings that people continue to report seeing in our skies? Is it possible that the Anunnaki, or other extraterrestrial groups, have been monitoring our progress from a distance, watching over the grand experiment they started so long ago? Perhaps they never left at all, but instead integrated themselves into human society, their influence continuing in secret, guiding our development from behind the scenes. As we continue to explore our own planet and look to the stars, we must keep an open mind. The evidence is not just in ancient texts, but is potentially encoded in our very DNA, the junk DNA that modern science still cannot fully explain. Could this be the genetic fingerprint of our creators? Are the stories of the Anunnaki simply the imaginative tales of our ancestors? Or are they the key to unlocking the greatest mystery of all time, the true origin of the human race? We must have the courage to ask the question. The truth, I propose, is waiting for us, hidden in plain sight, in the echoes of our most ancient past.